Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time around, we're checking out a mod by the name of The Edge of Time. The producer's cut, no less. What exactly makes it a producer's cut? Not a goddamn clue, but one thing I do know for sure. This is a mod about collecting stuff. Lots and lots of stuff. The levels are just chock full of it. Stuff. Tokens, pickups, enemies. You kill the enemies, they drop stuff, you pick up the stuff. You pick up enough of the stuff, you get a power-up that you can use to kill more stuff and get more stuff. It's a circle of stuff. A never-ending cycle of endless stuff. And the first section of this level, honestly, just made my eyeballs bounce around their sockets. I don't think I was just prepared for the sheer amount of stuff I'd be dealing with. It was a little overwhelming, I'm gonna be honest. A little overwhelming, and I think the key culprit in this was just how many visual effects were going on with this little pond section as well. You got leaves blowing around, you've got whatever's going on in the pool. I couldn't tell whether it was boiling or whether it was raining, and I didn't know what anything did. I didn't know what the tokens were for because I'm an idiot that doesn't read the README file or the forum posts, but eventually things started to coalesce. I figured out that things with hearts in them obviously might have something to do with health. I figured out that the tiny little blue cross things do 1 point of health because I was staring intently at the item pickup feed at the top of my screen just to see what the heck everything was for. And, you know, I calmed down eventually. And realized that this actually feels, in a way, kind of like the Golden Souls. You know, I say it feels like the Golden Souls, but it's more like the Golden Souls if it were fed a steady diet of crack cocaine, because good grief is The Edge of Time an unrelenting mod. It pretty much chucks you into the deep end and tells you to get paddling, and that's when you realize that the deep end gets deeper still the further out you get. This is the baseline. In these first few levels, this is the baseline experience, and it honestly only cranks it up from here. As you can imagine, this kind of intensity certainly isn't going to be for everyone, but where The Edge of Time does a real bang-up job of grabbing your attention is with that overwhelming amount of stuff. I mean, at first it will be confusing and disorientating as hell, but trust me, it will not be very long before it turns you into a raging coin addict. You see, I've got to kill the demons to get the coins. If I've got the coins, I've got the points. If I've got the points, I'm more likely to get the power-ups, and the power-ups are going to help me kill the demons to get the coins, to get the points, to get the power-ups, to get the... You see where I'm going with this? It's a tremendously compelling feedback loop. And it's that which propels you through nearly every single level here. It's something that honestly makes you feel like you could get inside the head of the Doomslayer. That thirst for demon murder he has, only replace the murder with coins, but you're still murdering the demons anyway. So it's basically Doom Guy with additional capitalism. I'd have to say, if there's one thing that consistently surprises me all the way through The Edge of Time, it's the fact that it doesn't somehow collapse under the weight of its own mayhem and turn into some kind of colossal clusterfuck. That's not to imply that there isn't a little bit of clusterfuckiness present here, however. There's certainly a few elements that could stand to be a little less obtrusive, such as the coins, for example. I wouldn't want a reduction in the number of them, but I certainly would want a reduction in that visual twinkle effect that occurs whenever you pick them up. Because, I don't know if you've noticed, but it kind of makes it difficult to see stuff that's in front of you, be it enemies or projectiles emanating from said enemies. On a similar front, you'll also get color filters applied to the screen when certain power-ups are active. Depending on the power-up, it'll be a different color, be it purple, red, or yellow. But the point is, during certain sections of level, these can actively serve to hinder your vision, making the action quite murky, and both of these things combined can be quite a hindrance, especially when dealing with large numbers of enemies. And if anything, a mod such as this really does need that visual clarity to help you deal with the action it's throwing at you. Putting those issues to one side, however, it still remains that The Edge of Time is tremendously compelling to play. As I've already alluded to, it's got a tremendous sense of forward momentum that just propels you through these levels, and it certainly doesn't hurt that the levels themselves are actually pretty solidly designed. You'll get a lot of looping design that will allow you to pick from one direction or another, ultimately leading you back to the starting point, or at least leading you in a natural feeling way to where you're supposed to be going. I never once felt completely baffled or lost by the level design here, and that as a result allowed me to focus on what is really the core of what you're going to be doing in The Edge of Time, and that's killing shitloads of demons. Aiding you in this particular endeavor is an interesting combination of both weaponry and items. On the weaponry front, you'll find it's pretty familiar fare up until the chain gun slot, where instead of one weapon, you actually have two. And I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the combination of assault rifle and minigun. Now, the minigun sounds like the obvious choice because dakka dakka dakka, but there is a drawback to its use. It's got a bit of a spin-up time to deal with before you can start firing, and once you stop firing, it's got to spin down again before you can start the process all over again. And you'd think that's where the assault rifle comes in handy, offering a more immediate firing solution, but at the cost of reduced fire rate. But when it came down to it, I found that just reverting back to the super shotgun felt like a more satisfying and workable choice. In the next slot up, we've got the rocket launcher, which here features three distinct fire modes. The first one being dumbfire, the second is seeker, and the third is grenade launcher. And out of those three, I typically use dumbfire and seeker the most often, what with the grenade launcher option proving a little too chaotic for my own good and resulting in a lot of self-inflicted death. But on the same slot, you've also got the semi-auto rifle, and the best I can figure why it's on the same slot as the rocket launcher is because the bullets deal so much damage. You can take down a big kahuna enemy with sometimes 3 or 4 shots with this thing, and to temper the urge to just use nothing but that weapon for the rest of the game, you do only get 5 shots per magazine with a pretty extensive reload time to boot, so it certainly promotes switching back to more immediate weaponry to clear out the chaff in the meantime. In the next slot up, we have the Argent Scepter. It kinda sucks. And in the BFG slot, we have the Argent Particle Accelerator. Is good BFG style weapon. 10 out of 10, would fire again. Basically, it does exactly what you expect it to do. If you fire it in a room full of enemies, that room full of enemies is highly likely to die, all the while giving off an extremely pretty firing effect. I might also add it's at the low price of just 32 points of energy per shot, and good grief does that make it one heck of a cheap death rate. In terms of the role that items play during the course of combat, you'll notice that a few interesting effects can be generated, such as the one that has temporarily turned me into a fire-breathing death chicken. It's certainly one of the rarer items you can acquire during the course of The Edge of Time. On a more frequent basis, you'll be running into the likes of gas flechettes, which you can throw at enemies, portable medkits for health on the go. You'll get randomized effect items, which can sometimes summon an Archvile Flame Wave, or if you're unlucky, a Piddly Imp Fireball. And then you've got the likes of the Frost Ovum, which, as the name implies, freezes and immobilizes enemies, making a crowd a little easier to manage. Bigger enemies sometimes take multiple applications of that particular item, but you'll find that they're always available in plentiful supply. It's just up to you when and where to chuck them into your enemies' faces. It's this combination of weapons, items, and power-ups that mean you never really feel like you're at a disadvantage when it comes to how to deal with the enemies you're up against. Not to imply that the enemies get easier to deal with as you progress through the mod, rather that the challenge feels balanced. It doesn't feel unfair. Sure, there'll be a few moments where you will absolutely rage with the fury of 1,000 suns because you've been stuck on the same section for at least 7 attempts now, but you know that it's your problem, not the mods, and that's what I really appreciate about The Edge of Time. It takes a concept and a style of gameplay that, as previously mentioned, could have devolved into a complete and utter clusterfuck, and instead turns it into this fast, furious, and tremendously entertaining arcade-style experience. Now, on the back of that, however, I have to confess that I've only made it as far as the end of Episode 2. I was a little strapped for time this week, so for all I know, Episode 3 could completely shit the bed, but I'm gonna say it's probably gonna continue as it means to go on, and keep up that high-intensity, furious coin-collecting mayhem. And honestly, I'm looking forward to finishing out my run with The Edge of Time. It's given me more than I bargained for, and has made a raging coin addict out of me, and to that I say well done. It's a heck of a piece of work. So, on that note, I think it's safe to say that yes, I would indeed recommend The Edge of Time. Doubly so if you're in the mood for something that is certainly gonna challenge you as you get deeper into it. To that end, if you're interested in giving it a whirl for yourself, then the link, as usual, is in the description below. While I'm at it, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel and for helping to make content like this possible. If you're interested in lending a hand yourself, maybe you'd like to see your name in the credits, or maybe you'd just like to get your hands on early editions of my videos before anyone else, if that's the case, then you'll find the link to my Patreon page also in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future editions of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.